Yeah, the specs look great.
Shashank, you got cut off by you got muted.
I'm in love in okay, sorry.
Yeah, you can say action has to.
People think coding is boring, but it's actually a lot of fun.
I believe everybody can code. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody.
People have a myth that you require a CS degree to code, but that's not true.
I would love the Octocat's next avatar to be animated because they're already so cute, and I would love to see them move.
The one where the Octocat wears a kimono, maybe like a violet one or something, and with the cherry blossoms and stuff. I definitely want to see something like that.
Me being a developer relation professional, I definitely can't wait for an avocado avatar of Octocat representing all the developer advocates out there.
So in the next 5 years, I feel AI, machine learning, and blockchain will be the technology where many people will be working with.
I believe in the next 5 years, we are going to see a lot of digital transformation and electric vehicle technologies.
I see a lot of advances happening in both hardware terms as well as software terms in the fields of augmented reality and virtual reality.
I personally see a lot of growth potential in startups, so it's definitely a startup for me.
Startups for sure. They're fast-paced, exciting. I'm currently at one and I'm absolutely loving it.
I would love to see myself at a startup, leading a team, solving problems, and brainstorming on some cool ideas.
Good morning and welcome to day 3 of GitHub Constellation. My name is Dheeraj Gyani. I'm the Director of Education and Government Engagements at GitHub and joining all of you from Gurgaon. Co-hosting with me is my colleague Arko. Hey, Arko. Arko, you're live. Arko, you're live.
I'm so sorry, Dheeraj. Sorry, I was just hooked to the GitHub India celebration video. Man, this is awesome. Well, hello everyone to GitHub Constellation India 2022. I am Orko from GitHub Education team, currently joining in from Siliguri, India. But before we start, Dheeraj, you totally need a makeover. This is too formal to be on the education track.
Sorry, I don't want to do that, but do I have an option?
No, Dheeraj, you need to do this. I mean, a lot of students are watching it today. All right, folks, back to the production crew to play the GitHub India celebration video once again till we get back Dheeraj in a new avatar.
And let's play the video.
Here we go. Open your eyes, watch us please. Tippity tap, tapping these keys. Scoping from idea to stable release. We're busy coding the India we need. The sweat to Mars, coded by whom?
Who set up an overnight COVID war room? Who's fixing the planet, saving the trees?
Who's tracking tigers as they live free? There's a new India being built today, and we're coding to make it that way. There's a new India being built today, and we're coding to make it that way.
Who's helping the disabled find their voice?
And women in STEM make some noise. Who helps deliver food every time?
Who's making it easy to pay online?
There's a new India being built today, and we're coding to make it that way. We're on it, yeah, we're on it, and we're coding to make it that way.
GitHub commits to India.
Wow, I simply love this track, man, so much. It's just a complete vibe. But wait, Dheeraj, looks like you are back on campus.
GitHub Global Campus. Arko, my mantra has always been to be a lifelong learner and student. So here I am. But what a constellation it has been, Arko. Over the last 2 days, we have heard some great content with over 71 speakers, 40 sessions, and 5 workshops. Day one had some amazing keynotes, including our CEO, Thomas Domke, Nandan Nilekani, who truly needs no introduction. And later we heard from Anna Roy at Niti Aayog. And the 3 amazing panels focusing on open source, security, and skilling. I truly love the breadth of the sessions I could attend. And the announcement of 8 million Indian developers on GitHub, that's almost equivalent of having the entire Switzerland population on GitHub India.
Totally, Dheeraj. And day 2 was no less. Like last day, all the dhamakedar performance, like that's in Mohit's words. 2 insightful keynotes, lightning talks, panel discussions, workshops across all 3 great pillars: community, DevOps, and security. Folks, in case you have missed either of the sessions, you can still watch it on demand on our official website, githubconstellation.com, and GitHub's YouTube channel.
Totally. And wait, we are just getting started with day 3, GitHub for Education, my favorite track at Constellation.
Yes, and we have some great sessions lined up today, starting off with a keynote talking about all things GitHub education, and then a fireside chat on innovation, culture, and entrepreneurship, which is literally the strength of India. Followed by a project spotlight by one of our famous campus expert alumni, and then moving on with a panel discussion where we talk about future of hiring with bootcamp and industry leaders. We have another spotlight by an educator who is using GitHub to teach GitHub. Finally, I'm going to jump in with a bunch of creators, talking to them all things creator economy.
And the day doesn't end here. We have 2 workshops happening today. First one for students, which is a full stack development using GitHub Student Developer Pack. And secondly, we have a teacher workshop on GitHub Classroom and Codespaces.
Nice. I'm loving this all day, Dheeraj. So, folks, before we start, GitHub events are very boring without swags. I know this very well. So, before we start all this, I want to test this little quiz that I thought I'll try it out with you, Dheeraj. You need to identify them. Wait.
Me?
Let's start.
Okay, bring it on, Marco, bring it on.
Yes. Do you recognize this by any chance?
Of course, that's the Sarito cat.
Yes, you got it right. You know GitHub quite well. How about this, Dheeraj?
Come on, Arco, make it tough. That's the Umbrelato cat.
I can't make it tough, but this one's my favorite, Dheeraj. Let me see.
I can guess that because that's my favorite community too, the Expertocrat.
Yes, for our favorite campus experts. Love them, man. So, before we really get into a lot of sessions and a lot of content for the day, we did reach out to a bunch of community leaders, asking them about their favorite swag, their favorite emoji. So how about we just go back to the production crew and hear it from them, what we heard.
That's right. Let's have the next video.
Yeah.
So basically, I'll just repeat it.
How to eliminate? Sorry, just a minute.
Does my eye get cut?
Got it. Okay, I'll go again.
Very excited.
The smiling geek, the one with the specs, that's me for sure.
A party emoji, yay!
I love the GitHub culture and especially the GitHub mentors.
I really love the swags.
Collaboration for sure. I absolutely love how GitHub allows us to collaborate with people all across the world.
I would love to deliver a keynote on the topic of reinforcement learning in deep learning.
How the young minds are bringing change in the world through code.
Code and education.
Because I love traveling, I'm looking forward to a cool waste bag swag this year.
I suppose that I'd really like a plushie.
I'm really looking forward to swag bags, coffee mugs, and Octocat plushies.
Well, you asked for swag. So without, we might run a contest with you all as you stream in today. So here's the contest. Share a photo of your favorite GitHub swag collection that you've got on Twitter using the hashtag GitHub Constellation. You could expect something more to add up to your collection. But in case you don't have swags yet, draw a Mona of yours. And you can tweet it, you could tweet it to us using the hashtag GitHub Constellation. And submissions will be taken until midnight this weekend.
Awesome, Arko. I have few swags you can see at on the back, but I'm equally greedy. I hope I am also eligible for this contest.
Yes, Dheeraj, go ahead. You have a lot of swags already. Why don't you go try drawing a Mona art before we start doing the first session?
That's making it tough for me. All right, let's get started, folks, with the first session of the day with a keynote by our Senior Director of GitHub Education, Moira Hardik. Moira, over to you.
Hi, I'm Mo, the Senior Director and Honored Maintainer of GitHub Education. And today I'm going to talk to you about my favorite topic, GitHub Education. And let me let you in on a little secret about the EduCats, the team behind GitHub Education. We were all students once too, and more than a few of us were also teachers. And what that means is that we share your frustrations of learning computer science. The frustration of setting up a development environment, finding that silly one bracket you didn't close, unstable internet connectivity and device access. And that's why we became EduCats, to experience the joy of being able to create solutions for the computer science education problems of today and the problems we experienced back in the day that still haunt learners, even now. We've listened, we've learned, and we proudly present a new and updated solution for our GitHub Education users. A well-rounded computer science education and a successful career in the software development industry involves so much more than just learning syntax. The soft skills required for ultimate success, like communication, teamwork, and collaboration, make the difference. And we wanted to make opportunities to work on those skills as available as a new Python project to work on. And with that in mind, we built our new platform, which makes accessing tools and benefits much easier, but more importantly, brings together our regional and global communities. Take a virtual stroll around Global Campus, and you'll find your local student leaders, like campus experts, the more than 80 available in India, local IRL and virtual events. There's always something to watch and learn on campus TV. And if you're pulling an all-nighter, you can watch what's going on around the globe. You can see what other students are working on in the community exchange. And don't forget to do your homework. The classroom widget in Global Campus will remind you of your assignments and upcoming due dates. And the assignment project will be easily accessed and worked on via Codespaces. Let's talk about Codespaces for a minute. Well, teachers are experimenting with it right now and setting up their classrooms for the fall. So exciting. Imagine a world where you don't spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and sometimes much longer setting up your development environment. Utilizing Codespaces, you'll be able to start and get deep into your project much more efficiently, allowing you to create and learn more. A game-changing development environment like Codespaces has seemed like a CS urban legend for years, but it has arrived. What a time to be a computer science student. More to come on Codespaces for education in the upcoming months. And what a time to be a CS education student in India. We've had some great experiences in the last year, and let's take a look back. For example, virtual graduation, one of GitHub Education's most beloved program, created as a result of the COVID pandemic in 2022. Virtual graduation was dominated by India students in 2021 with pull requests and helping other students with their PRs and just overall growing the community. Bravo, students of India, well done. And don't forget that the 2022 graduation repo is live. We also were able to offer a unique opportunity in India known as the externship, which allowed local students to work with local tech companies and create relationships that are rarely seen outside of internships. We're proud to say that we're going to be extending the program inside of India and to other regions around the world. And here's a fun fact that many of you may not know. GitHub Education's popular program Stream Team was actually born in India. In the late fall of 2020, we launched Campus TV with former campus expert and current Twitch star, Yash. That successful experiment resulted in the creation of the Stream Team, which airs over a dozen shows in 5 languages on our Twitch channel, all discussing different CS topics relevant to students today. And since the redesign and relaunch of the Campus Experts program, we've welcomed 2 new cohorts of campus experts, with over 80 of those experts spread across India. And for our beloved teachers, we've been running a professional developments training series for teachers, helping them understand Git and GitHub and how to teach with GitHub. It has been a tremendous success. Let's take this opportunity to hear from our local educators. I would now invite Dr. Kapoor, Dean of Computer Science at Chitkara University, a GitHub campus partner school in India, on how he is partnering with us.
Both the campuses of Chitkara University at Punjab and Himachal Pradesh are proudly associated with GitHub, and they enjoy the benefits of GitHub campus program. We have been fortunate enough to capture enough attention so that we can give the best of the technology enablement to our technology students. As a formal course on source code management, when it was thought of in our university, and keeping in mind the huge number of students that were going to take that course, so a need was felt that we need to train our faculty. So from there, we went on to do a faculty development program, which was 7-day long training on GitHub and Git for around 78 of our faculty members, who later on went into the classrooms to deliver the same very skills that were imparted to our faculty. And now the course is being taken by around 2,500 plus students, and we want to increase that fold going forward. The benefits that our students enjoy based on their enablement on GitHub has been immense, in the sense that we are seeing a lot of impetus on adoption of open source technologies in their day-to-day work, and they are managing their source code needs using GitHub as a platform. And when we speak about industry readiness and the job skills that are being shown to us by our potential recruiters, GitHub skills primarily are very, very important and highlighted by all the recruiters. So it is a win-win situation that in second semester, that is in their first year, the freshmen of our technology programs are taking benefits of GitHub campus program. Thank you so much, GitHub. We look forward to have much more stronger initiatives from you going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kapoor. And coming up in an exciting announcement, GitHub Education returns to India in early 2023 as a platinum sponsor for ACM Conference CompEd in Hyderabad. We look forward to seeing many of you there. GitHub Education has assisted more than 3 million students along their journey to become software developers, and we're here for you too. Join us. Head over to education.github.com, and I'll see you on campus.
Isn't that amazing? 3 million students overall on GitHub Education, 350 campus institutions, and more than 80 campus experts from India. No wonder that the Indian education ecosystem is one of the most fastest growing and the most engaged communities on GitHub. And a big thanks to Dr. Monit Kapoor for your love and trust. And I'm super excited about Global Campus. Arko, what's the best thing for a student to be on the GitHub Global Campus?
Well, I'm wondering, is it because all the cool swags we ship to our students? But honestly, Dheeraj, there's actually everything that a student ideally needs to craft their journey, from developer tools to build awesome projects, learning resources, Twitch streams, IRL events, virtual events, and amazing community programs. You ask it, and it's there on Global Campus. But here's a little secret: we are bringing back the in-person events back on campuses around the world. Our flagship graduation event has an in-person event component too this year, with two amazing events happening, one in Brazil, the other one in India. We are also bringing back field days in person. Keep an eye on the GitHub Education Twitter to watch out for event updates.
Wow, I truly want to be there and meet our student community leaders in real life.
Yes, wait for the purple umbrella, Dheeraj. It's gonna come in during field days. All right,
Another
folks.
umbrella tag.
Yes, it's a nice swag we give out during field days. All right, folks. Up next is a fireside chat on innovation, culture, entrepreneurship between Kunal Shah, founder of Cred, and Manish Sharma, general manager GitHub India. Might sound too lame. I have got my notepad ready. Wanna take notes, Manish? Over to you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here today at GitHub Constellation India 2022. I'm joined here by someone who needs no introduction, a serial entrepreneur, a mentor, advisor, investor in startups, and an advisor to many organizations, Kunal. Hi, Kunal. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's great. We have a lot of developers and students in the audience here today, Kunal, and I'm sure in this conversation, many of them will be inspired with what you have to share, and also take back lots of learnings that they can apply in their daily work.
I'm super glad to be here. It's the group that I feel most conscious speaking to, because the one of the less known fact about me is that I started my career as a programmer who was terrible, and I was working on front end, particularly JavaScript, ASP kind of stuff in 22 years ago, and I realized that I wasn't very good at it, but I was very good at finding and solving bugs.
So that's interesting, and no pun intended. I'm part of the same club, Kunal. I tried my hand at C, Python, Java. I realized I'm no good at coding. I'm better at going and talking about it to others. So here I am doing what I call my favorite job in the world, which is working at GitHub.
Awesome.
So let me jump right into it. You talked about your career having started off as a developer and working on code. But I think your journey has been really phenomenal, founding companies, solving problems. While we can say tech is solving problems as well, every developer is solving problems. There's this element of innovation, and that you have also been doing. What's your thought on an innovator's mindset?
I think there are many ways to look at it. First of all, I think a lot of people confuse jugaad as innovation, which is a problematic thing. I think any jugaad that scales as innovation. If it doesn't, it's just a jugaad, right? And it's not going to get you there. And a lot of people think of that as innovation, which is not, right? I think innovation is finding a better path towards doing something that was otherwise not known or not practiced, but makes things dramatically more efficient, right? And every time you find an innovative solution, every other solution seems extremely inefficient, right? It should make everything before that feel inefficient in many ways. So to me, the innovator's mind is this desperate need to find the shortest path between 2 points, right? And not the most reliable path. And therefore, innovators are likely to fail a lot because they may go in many directions and realize that, oh, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. And then they keep finding the shortest path. And they are very different than people who will reliably take you from point A to point B. May not be the shortest path, may not be the most efficient path, but they'll get you there. So I think the difference, and I've seen one particular trait. So there's a beautiful framework I learned about from Devdutt Patnaik, which was a 2x2, which talks about one side is values, people who have high values, low values, and then there is obedience and low obedience, right, as a second thing. And if you do a 2x2 on that, you will find Ram as an archetype on high values and high obedience to rules. And Ravan is somebody with low obedience to rules and low values, right? And then there is Duryodhan, very high obedience to rules but low values, like is an interesting character. And then there is Krishna, which is very low obedience to rules but very high values, right? And I think to me, innovators are a little bit like Krishna's archetype, where they have very little respect to how things are done before. They believe in the value of it and the path to it, and therefore find interesting and short paths to achieving same goals or even achieve better goals.
Oh, I love that 2x2 matrix. When you were talking about, I was trying to think, where do I fit in? Where do a lot of people I know fit in? I won't talk about it on this call, but that was really, really fascinating. And I really like what you talked about Jugaad. It's funny, I was talking to an entrepreneur yesterday, Kunal, and he was also saying the same thing, that, my engineers always look at Jugaad, trying to solve a quick problem, but I always push back and say, hey, let's look at something that scales. So it's a very deja vu, what you just mentioned. Very interesting. And in your talk, you just talked a lot about, point A to point B, trying to come up with a solution. And I think my view is that's what an entrepreneur really does. But at the same time, right now we're talking a lot about startups, but in our system and values, entrepreneurship is not something that is taught. So how do you really sow these seeds? How did you think about becoming an entrepreneur, and why?
That's a hard question for the whole country. We have been trained as a country to find safety, security, and settle down. And the word settle down is a problematic word because many people have just settled down and are not taking risks anymore in their life, in their careers. And the volume of people that currently are existing in startup world is very, very small, right? But all the changes are been driven by the small group of people. And why aren't more people joining? Because of the risk attached to working and being at a startup. But to me, the choice that I had was, I was doing a job and I had a choice of buying a bigger house or getting a bigger car, and that loop. And I realized that I'm going to be again getting stuck in EMI chakkar, and I realized that EMI was nothing but entrepreneur marne ka injection, right? Or entrepreneurship marne ka injection, because it was this method where you stay in that loop and you don't come out. So I realized that I should probably do something and build something. And I think many people are born with entrepreneurial DNA. They just kill it over a period of time. And I'll tell you the traits of those people. They are less likely to respect how things are done, and they're questioning, ye kyun kar rahe hain? Why is this? This is a stupid idea. All of that, right? They're mostly vocal. Second set of people are who have insane sense of ownership, right? And I define ownership as a very interesting thing. That imagine you're a product manager, and I can detect two types of product managers. I call them the pet owners and the pet walkers, right? And there's a huge difference. They may look like the same people, but they are not, because if you ask a pet owner, they will know all the nuances about the pet. This is the person they will bark at. This is the person they will not bark at. This is the food that they like. This is the reaction they will have on this event. All of that. A pet walker, on the other hand, just kind of walks the pet, right? And I think that's the difference. If you find people who have insanely high ownership in what they do, they usually are very aware even if there's a small domain of things that they're operating on. And if you are one of those people, entrepreneurship is for you, because a job will never appreciate ownership as much as a startup will, or being an entrepreneur will teach you.
I totally agree. And I think my experience has been learning, once you are a problem solver, a pet owner, there's a lot of learning. Even training a dog to, who you should bark at and not bark at, who you should bite and not bite. There's a lot of learning that you have to go through to teach the dog. So I can totally relate to that, Kunal. Let me switch gears a little bit and talk about something that all of us have faced over the last 2 years, which is this whole remote thing. And a lot of the students who are listening to you right now would be joining careers, going out and getting a job, and they need to be sort of faced with this new reality of hybrid. So in your org and in your interaction with so many companies and startups, how do you think students should prepare for this new normal?
I have observed the younger team members who have joined during COVID, their learning curve has been much slower and sloppier compared to people who have been working from the office. And I'll tell you why I feel that is happening. A lot of our learning is done through method of osmosis, just being around people who are smarter than us or know more than us, and you see them in action. Even though you are not invited for the meeting, you are overhearing conversations. You are overhearing conversation at lunch table. You are overhearing some random discussions here and there. And I see a huge problem where younger people, this is exactly like studying online, right? Imagine a school kid is just learning online and hoping that they understand, but there are so many things that you learn by playing with other people, or doing projects with other people, and having understanding of leadership, and building human relationships and bonds, which makes it easy to do work in a group. And I think while it's super convenient, it is making sure that people are not learning at a faster curve. And I think if you believe that you are more ambitious than others, and if you believe that you want to learn more than others, then I would highly discourage you to be in a hybrid format and figure out a way to be around humans. As they're going, I mean, as the saying goes, that we say that we are an average of 5 people we hang out with. And if you have just hung out with your family members for all these years, you will become their average. You have to go out there and increase the dimensions of thinking on different things. Like families can teach you great things about values and things, but skills and competence, which is not going to be something that you will find. How many of us are going to have people in our family who are great programmers, great developers, great product managers, great businessmen or businesswomen? We just don't know. We just we are first generation for many of the things that we are doing right now in life, and therefore it's better to kind of be around those people and absorb everything that they have to offer.
That's amazing. I really like how you called a spade a spade. It's not only about hybrid, it's about going out and engaging with people. And I can share my experience. I derive my energy from meeting people, even bumping into folks at the airport, hearing what they're doing. I used to get inspired. Looking forward to things opening up again. And I'm sure all of us are as well. And colleges are open, so all of you would be going back and meeting, folks who've joined college in the last 1 or 2 years, who've just been doing online education for the last 2 years. It's a really interesting time. So let me talk about this hybrid piece a little bit more, Kunal, because it is a reality. While we will go out and students will meet people, developers will engage, I think with tech also enabling people to be remote, there is also this whole aspect of how do you build a culture. And in the innovator's mindset, in the problem solving, in the speed at which you are executing, right, the culture is an important piece. So how do you deliberately think about building culture in CRED and in the other organizations that you sort of advise?
I think culture is the hardest to transmit in remote environments. And therefore, I believe that every company which is working hybrid will have multiple subcultures that will develop, right? Because a culture is nothing but constantly demonstrating what is okay and what is not okay consistently, right? If it's inconsistent in a company on what is okay and what is not okay, then that org is also demonstrating a culture that they are inconsistent. That is their culture, right? I believe that one can write, these are our values, these are our things, but it's very hard to evoke certain things. For example, if one of the company's traits and culture used to be about being helpful to other people, is extremely hard to be helpful to people that you've not met and are remotely working on a project and only interacting through Zoom or Google Meets, and you don't know them. You don't know why are they asking these things. You don't know their tone. You don't read their tones, right? For most people, like for example, if people know me only through texting, which is many of my team members, and they never saw me speak in person, they will always think that I am a rude or mean person because I don't use emojis, right? I'm from a generation where emojis is not part of expression, right? And to me, text is something that I don't like, so I just be curt on it. So I think we are all building impressions about people, and I think same is about culture. All the companies are not able to drive culture in a remote environment because how do you get some of these softer aspects going, right? This is not like, imagine if I said, there are so many times you should be like, oh, this is not cred, like this is not cred, this is not cred, this is not cred we saw or we see happening. And now how do you say these things? And I don't even know your behavior outside your time spent on Slack. I don't know how do you behave. How are we shaping people to become better human beings? Which is what many of us got to learn from our workplaces, right? Our workplaces made us better human beings in many, many ways because we dealt with good cultures, right? But now we are mostly being what we are, and the transformation that we have to go through is just not happening.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I think I'm thinking back to jugaads, where a lot of companies are coming up with jugaads of hiring people, right? They give a bike or something like that, which will attract developers. But I think what really makes people stay is the culture, as you talked about. I'm able to relate to what CRED stands for, what the whole leadership team is walking the talk, and that's what is the mission that I would like to be a part of. Totally relate to that. I think an interesting question, which I'm sure everybody would want an answer for, is how do organizations like CRED look at hiring developers? I know CRED is a partner with GitHub on the internship side as well, so thank you for supporting students. But purely from a hiring perspective, what should all of these student developers look at developing when applying to CRED?
I think we like people who love being builders and not being laborers of builders, right? Like there is a mindset towards that I am a builder, or
the dog walker and the dog owner.
Yeah, pretty much, and which means that you have, like, I dislike developers who are like, ये product कुछ तो कर रहा है बनाना है, but आप भी तो product बना रहे हो, right? And I think the thing is that being insane amount of pride in work is hugely important, right? Like it's not about others rating your work 8 on 10. Do you rate it 8 on 10, 9 on 10 before you ship it, right? That's one. The second one is people who believe in compounding. They believe that they have to become much better versions of themselves every year, right? They treat themselves as an app that needs constant bug fixing and enhancement of features, right? Or introduction of new features for that matter, right? Those are the people that we really look up to. The kind of people that we don't like are the ones who are inert, right? They they don't feel something is going wrong, something is being done badly. They don't feel it here, right? And the ones are who are optimizing for titles versus learning, right? There's an interesting phenomena I have seen is very specific to India, I would say, is that the joy of designations and titles versus what's my work, how am I impacting things, am I driving a huge amount of change?
Yeah, and am I, becoming a manager? Am I leading teams? That's more important than solving an algorithmic problem, which will open up a lot more possibilities. It's very interesting, and I love what you said. I'm an app. I need bug fixes constantly. I need to improve my features constantly, and I'll always be scalable, right? The app needs to be scalable as well. I just love that statement of yours, Kunal. So let me tone things down a little bit, make it a lot more non-serious. What would you say is your favorite cred advertisement? Which one? Which one?
I don't think I can pick a favorite. We've been very fortunate to work with really creative group of people who have come up with many good ones. So I wish I could pick one. But I think the good ones are still to come. So I keep hoping that my favorite is out there in the future versus in the past.
Yeah, I like all of them. They're always very quirky and very, very fun. Talking about quirkiness, you are a prolific investor, Kunal. You've been, supporting startups. What's the most quirkiest pitch that you've got from a startup?
I think quirkiest may not necessarily work as much as
wackiest.
The ones where the people who know you vouch for you the most, right? A lot of time people think that it's the pitch that gets the funding or the pitch that gets people to invest. A lot of times, I think about investing is somewhat like arranged marriage, right? You cannot really predict because you've not really spent time with somebody. So what you're looking for is markers of competence, markers of trust, markers of ability to think product and do product. And while you can show a demo, you can't understand everything, right? Like, how do I understand something in, I don't know, baby care? How do I understand something in agriculture? Like, I don't understand. But what you can understand is people. What you can understand is the size of market that you're going after, right? And the moment you are able to demonstrate that in the most meaningful way possible, I think one of the downsides of shows like Shark Tank is that we have trivialized the need for references, the need for who are recommending you, the need for what's your journey been versus a pitch. A pitch, I would say, is only 20-25% of what you are doing. I have seen success in investing largely coming in early stages is on people, because you will see a builder when you will get to see clarity of thinking. So my personal favorites are people who know something more than I do about a subject. That's my filter. So I don't think the wackiest, quirkiest ones you don't even get noticed. I like people who seem to have an understanding of something much more than I understand about that subject.
That's interesting. I think the only comment I would have on Shark Tank, Kunal, is the positive side is now everybody knows what entrepreneurship is. Going back to that question I asked you about sowing the seeds of entrepreneurship, it
yes.
might not be the perfect example, but
yes
at least,
no. The only problem I see is that everybody thinks startup is like raising money. It's like everybody who wants to run thinking that only when you have Nike shoes you can run. That's the problem I see.
Yeah, right. I think if you look around India, there is entrepreneurship already everywhere. People, even somebody opening a shop, just to sell grocery is entrepreneurship. So totally agree with you. Uh, Last question on this one would be, what has been your top 3 learnings as an entrepreneur in this whole journey? I'm sure you're also an app.
I wish you could summarize it into top 3, but if I have to still talk about a few that come top of mind would be, it is it is better to build new things than fix old things. Always true. And therefore, I wonder if you can fix some of the societal structures. Maybe it's always going to be about building new ones, right? That's one. The second one is the joy for building has to be way more than the joy of making money. If the joy of making money is way more than building, money will never come to you. 3 is not everybody thinks and cares about scaling. They don't want their products to be used by millions and millions of people. They're very happy if 10 people used it, they used it. And I think there's a distinction between those people who want their product, their idea, their vision to be across a lot of people. And that's a very different DNA. And therefore, it also comes with the empathy of a large amount of people. I call it the crowd empathy versus empathy of a small group. Because you build a feature, if it's not going to work for a large set of people, you're mostly very poor on empathy.
Very interesting. I think you talked a lot about innovation, you talked about entrepreneurship, values, culture. There's immense learning in what Kunal talked about. My takeaway, personal takeaway, Kunal, is I'm an app. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to steal this idea of yours. I'm going to talk about myself being an app and bug fixes, especially when I do stupid things at home. I can always blame it on, the app has a bug. Thank you for sharing all of this with students and developers out there, Kunal. I'm sure there are, really good nuggets of learning that they've taken away. Is there anything else that you would like to share with these budding entrepreneurs and budding software developers getting into, their careers?
All I would say is that this is probably the best time for the country, the best time to be involved in building, and best time to become better version of yourself. Don't settle down is all I would say.
Don't settle down. I think that's the takeaway for all of you. Thank you, Kunal, for your time here today and speaking to all of us out here.
Thank you, Kunal and Manish, for that fantastic discussion. The 2x2 matrix and plotting the Mahabharata personas on it was so interesting. The new definition of EMI and similarity between investment and arranged marriages. As Manish said, there is immense takeaways that I have had. Arko, how many pages did you write?
Well, about 2 pages. Yeah, I got a few notes already. But honestly, Dheeraj, I have this habit of journaling. It helps me reflect, learn, share my practices, and reflect at the end of the day.
And since we are talking about year-end reflections of our work and contributions, our next session is about GitHub Wrap, a cool project built by one of our own campus expert alumni, Harshal. Let's hear from Harshal and his story and his experience about the building GitHub Wrap.
But wait, we have the swag contest running on. So just a reminder, everyone, please share your favorite GitHub swag collection on Twitter using the hashtag GitHub Constellation to participate. It's valid until this weekend. Thank you so much. Over to you, Harshal.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I am excited to share my journey and talk about GitHub Rap with you all today. My name is Harshil Agrawal. When I was in university, a friend took me to a tech community, and that's when I got introduced to the community and my community journey got started. It motivated me to start a community on my campus, and my search led me to the GitHub Campus Expert program. Now, I won't get too much into the details about it, but the program really helped me in a lot of ways. I became an active open source contributor, and I also started enjoying the process of educating the community and helping them learn new things. This enthusiasm and passion led me to my current position in the developer relations team at Anytime. Now, being in DevRel, you often get the opportunity to try out new ideas, and GitHub Rap was one such idea. So GitHub Rap was basically an idea that it was inspired by Spotify Rap. So if you are a Spotify user, you might know what Spotify Rap is. But let me give you a quick introduction about what Spotify Rap is. So at the end of every year, Spotify analyzes the listening habits of the users, and it presents it in a really fun way. You can get all the your top artists, your top songs, your top genre, and all those crazy fun facts. Now, I haven't tried Spotify Rap myself, but I really love the idea. The idea to share all this analytics with your friend with just one click really blew my mind. You could share it on Instagram, or you can also tweet about it on Twitter. And this is what encouraged me to think about and come up with an idea of GitHub Rap. I was thinking of creating something similar for the open source contributions that we make. So let's take a quick look at GitHub Rap. So the idea of GitHub Rap is to get all the contributions that you made in the last year. So the user enters the username, clicks on Wrap It. There's a bit of processing going on behind the scenes, and you get an image which displays all the result out there. You can also simply click on the tweet button and it will tweet it on the Twitter. Now, as developers, I know we are more thrilled to know about how tools work. So there were already a similar kind of projects available out there, but they were different to what I had in mind. And most of them were written in code. I wanted to challenge myself to see if I can create a project with as less code as possible. After all, I work for a low-code automation startup. So Anytime was the obvious choice of tool in my arsenal. And the next service that I used was Cloudinary. Cloudinary provides cloud-based image and video management services. And using the Cloudinary transformation API, I was able to generate those images. Now, with these two services in place, I had my app up and running. However, I wanted to do more. I wanted to add a reverse proxy so that when a user makes a request to the GitHub Rap URL, it gets forwarded to my Anytime workflows. And I ended up using Cloudflare Workers. To give you an idea of the whole flow, a user would make a request to locode.land/ghrep/, which would go to the Cloudflare Workers. Based on the request, Cloudflare Workers would process the information to Anytime. Anytime would check what this information or what this request contains, and if it needs to generate an image. If it needs to generate an image, it would call the transformation API, generate that image, and then pass it on to Cloudflare Workers, which would then display the result to the end user. However, if we just wanted to render out the landing page, Anytime would not make the call to the Cloudflare API, but it would just return the landing page to Cloudflare Workers, and the Cloudflare Workers would forward this response to the user. Now, I wasn't expecting so much love coming in from the community, and I was really thrilled to see all the traction that it got. Even GitHub tweeted about this on using their official handlers. And I also got featured on the production newsletter. Honestly, I was surprised to see all this love, and this taught me a lot of things. The first is the obvious one, just to ship it. Even if you think it's not ready, just go ahead and ship it. share it with the community and get their feedback. There's always going to be that feature you want to add before you ship your project. If you ever run into that dilemma, remember to just ship it. Now, even before the project was actually created, I was talking about this on Twitter and I was sharing the process of building the project. I also teased my followers that I'll be launching something soon. I think that also gave me a good follow-up on my product and launch. Now, building in public helped me stay committed to the project and help me keep on teaching the community of what I was doing. So if, like me, you have the project that is still on your to-do list or it's just in your head, start building in public. Trust me, you will enjoy it. And as soon as I launched GitHub Wrap on Product Hunt, one of my colleagues messaged me and he reported a bug. And I was a bit scared. I was like, I tested it out before launching it. So why is it not working now? And this taught me the third lesson. It's to fail fast, but to recover quickly. So instead of just taking a pause over there or just terminating the project, I went ahead, I debugged the issue, and I was able to fix it in just a few minutes. The incident taught me that it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to fix it. So these were the 3 essential learnings that I got from this project. Now, as a student, I believe you are at an advantage. You have an advantage to experiment and build cool stuff with the resources available to you. And I'm a bit jealous because you have the GitHub Student Developer Pack, which contains tons of resources that you can use to build any such projects. So use your creative freedom to build anything and everything with all the tools you want. GitHub Wrap gave me a lot of exposure. People who I admire and look up to were talking about it. I got invites to talk about the project on podcasts and live streams, and it helped me to reach a wider audience and gave me the confidence to create such more projects. So if you have a crazy idea that you think is not worth trying out, trust me, just give it a try, share it with the community, and you might get some unexpected good results. But what's next with this project? So getting the feedback from the community, I have come up with a couple of more interesting ideas and I am working on improving the project. And this project inspired me to create another project that's OSS Commit. So I am working on OSS Commit with the aim to help and encourage people to contribute to open source projects. I am again building this project in public. So you can always check it out. Check out the progress for this on my Twitter, and even the repo for this is public on my GitHub account. So if you are building a project, please do share it with me. I would love to know about it and help you. So you can always hit me up on Twitter if you want to read, and if you want to read more about GitHub Wrap, do check out my website. I have written an article with a bit more details. And thank you for joining in. I am looking forward to listening to your story in the next GitHub Constellation. Have a nice day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Harshil, for that amazing intro. Quick heads up, if you're folks unable to attend the session, we got all the sessions available on demand on the website githubconstellation.com and on the GitHub YouTube channel.
Well, Arko, isn't this such an amazing time to be a student? I remember my college days where, in spite of having great degrees, placement was never assured. And today we see skills becoming more important than degrees. And institutes are willing to train students for free and charge them once they get placed. Isn't that something really awesome?
Yes, Dheeraj. As we talk about skills and placements, I want this conversation to lead to a panel where we have some folks from the industry talking about all the hacks of building great, amazing portfolios, building cool projects, and getting the best of the jobs of the industry. We have bootcamp leaders and the next generation software companies who are hiring these tech talent, presenting a panel discussion on future of hiring by Divya Vaishnavi, Director of Products, GitHub Education. Over to you, Divya.
Happy morning, afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us in this panel discussion of future of hiring. And thank you so much for chiming in GitHub Constellation. Today, like I said, we're talking about future of hiring. And I have esteemed panelists with me, Abhimanyu Saxena, co-founder of Interbit and Scalar, dedicated to the mission of making 1 million software developers in India for best in the world. Tanay Pratap, founder and CTO in Wact Metaversity. He's boss with Microsoft, working on Microsoft team. He's master of web development and crazy about web performance, security, and scale. And last but not the least, Ether Ranganathan from the corp world joining us. He's head of India engineering at Stripe. He's also been in his previous stints with Amazon, Facebook, where he's helped with innovative software development. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. To introduce myself, I'm Divya Vaishnavi. I'm Director of Product for GitHub Education and really excited to talk about hiring and how we help students move from learnability to employability. Abhimanyu, I'll start with you. Tell us a little from your journey, your key learnings, and how is hiring changing in the world and specifically in India?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Divya, for first, of course, inviting all of us to this panel. And definitely it's a great topic to talk about, that how the world of hiring, specifically in technology, is very rapidly evolving. I'll talk about my journey. I started being professionally coding for close to 14 years now. Before starting Interbit and Scalar, had been a software engineer myself, trying hard to build a high performance team. And one thing that we realized was that despite the signaling mechanism that have existed for the centuries, if not millennia, which is that generally we would look at the pedigree of the individual, what kind of universities one have gone to, what kind of degrees someone have done. And unfortunately, over time, that has become such a high noise channel that you would, I'm sure that all the people who have taken technical interviews on this panel as well would agree that often they might have seen times where you would have done interviews of 100 folks who all seem great on paper, but when you interview them, you realize that the person doesn't have the skills that the industry need, that your team need, right? And hence, very quickly, at least in last full decade, and now I think we are at the inflection point where the hiring is very quickly shifting from signaling or credentials to skills. Proof of work, what you can build, what you can showcase is what matters. Nothing else matters. One proof point there is that if we look at some of the best companies across the world, be it Tesla, be it Facebook, be it Microsoft, be it Google, almost all of the companies are comfortable that if you meet their hiring bar, particularly in the tech teams, you would not be turned down even if you don't have a degree. Forget about a degree in a particular field or not. Even if you don't have a degree, they would not turn you down, right? And that is definitely a very big shift. Probably if we talk about our parents' generation, it would be hard for them to believe that you can get a high-paying, high-performance job while you do not even have a degree. So I think, in my journey in last 10, 15 years, since I have been, of course, as an engineer, in giving interviews, then turning around the table, taking interviews, then building a company, having hired so many people, that's one of the biggest changes that I see in the last decade that we have come across.
Wow, awesome. So proof of work and skills more important than actual degrees. Tanay, over to you. Can you share a little bit about your journey and what do you see as the big trend in hiring today?
Yeah, thank you, Divya. Thank you, first of all, for inviting us and inviting this amazing panel to talk to something which is very, very near to my heart, right? Personal story is that didn't graduate from a top tier college and worked at Microsoft and been teaching and coaching a lot of students to work in unicorns across India, right? So even from a personal anecdote perspective, it does not matter anymore. It did few years back, but it does not anymore. As long as you have what Abhimanyu very rightly said, proof of work, right? In first January 2021, I tweeted about this, that be so good that people start valuing your craft over your credentials, right? So that has stuck with me. The craft over credentials is because we don't know the credentials of the best artists in the world, right? They see, people often confuse degree with license. Degree and license are two different things. There are licensed practices wherein you need to have a license to practice that, like law, like medicine, right? And then there's pilot license, and then there is degree. Degree, at least for computer science or anything related to that, is not required. We are seeing that even in other places, in businesses, in operations, and things like that, in writing, in journalism, you don't need degree. So these places where you don't have a license requirement, you don't even need to go to college today, right? That's a very tough stance to say, but yes, if you do not have the money, you do not have the resources, do not have the time to pursue a college, there are many students who basically dropped out because COVID was a tough time. They were not going to colleges, parents were losing jobs, college fees are high, and they reached out and they said, bhaiya, can't go to college, what to do? Can you pay fees for us? I said, we can't pay the fee for you, but I can ensure you that you give 6 months time, your honest time for 6 months, do XYZ, create proof of work, and that's it. That's all you need to do to get a job. And it has been a successful model across the whole, I think, computer science community at least.
Before I go to Atre, do you mind sharing the numbers of how many students with using this proof of work that you've been able to help place in unicorns?
Yeah, so direct number is 100 students we placed. So I basically, in 2022, a lot of people, this was a public bet. I shaved my head and I put a photo on Twitter and saying, I'm going to place students while working at Microsoft. And I'll not grow my hair unless, and so all my videos from that time and all my photos for 1 year is without hair. And people were like, bhaiya, baal jhad rahe kya aapke? I'm like, dude, come on. Genetics ko aise nahi bolna chahiye. So that happened. And then 100 folks got placed directly. But a lot of students, after doing all of this, they applied through angel.co and other places. And startups today, at least I can tell you, whether it's a unicorn or a seed stage startup, they do not care about the degree at all. They do not even care about, whether you are from Patna or from Surat, or which city you are from, which culture you are from. Some people even don't care about the quality of your communication. We talk so much about communication. When we talk about communication, we talk about English and writing, right? But communication is more than that. It's about कि आपने भावनाएं व्यक्त कर पा रहे हैं कि नहीं? Can you say what you want to say, right? And a lot of students were good at that, bad at English, but even they got a real jobs. Like companies like Colon have hired some of the students who are not great at English, but they said, don't worry, we'll coach you for that. So I think there's no bar right now. The only bar is your craft and nothing else.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Atre, coming to you, and you're kind of on the other side of table, kind of with me. Tell us about from the corporate world, and say with Stripe as well, which is a unicorn, like what are you seeing? What is changing in terms of hiring?
Yeah, I'll maybe start with a personal anecdote here in this case, because I spent a lot of my time, in fact, all of my professional career in Bay Area in California, where I worked for Facebooks and Amazons of the world. And you get to kind of sample some of the best talent that's available, actually in the world, I would say, because when you're really good in any part of the world, Bay Area has this very cosmopolitan culture where it's very inviting for immigrants. So you see a lot of people from all parts of the world, and they're possibly the best in their country, kind of come into the Bay Area, and you get to work with them, you get to interview them, you get to interact with them. And then I've had that level of, I would say, exposure. And I was kind of very used to that. So when I decided to kind of move back to India, one of the first kind of like trepidations, if you will, that I had from a professional perspective was, how is the quality of talent going to be in India, right? I mean, I've never worked here. When I left, it was largely service-oriented industries. And so now that we're coming here as a product company, there was obviously some amount of fear of what are we going to find. And I'm extremely happy to report back that we've been blown out of the water in terms of expectations of whatever expectations we came with. So we have actually gone as far as to say that, Stripe came to India for the market. The digital payment market here is exploding. We're still very interested in the market, but we're staying for the talent. The talent has been phenomenal. The leadership in, especially in the tech field, has been extremely good. I would say on par, if not better than the Bay Area. And just to kind of add to what both Tanay and Abhi said here, I will say that there is a unique differentiator, if you will, that Indian talent actually brings, which, having come from a different kind of cultural background, especially from a professional perspective, to here, I'm able to kind of identify that, which is just growth mentality, right? All of India is still growing. All of India, demographically, is very young, and there's a lot of growth that the country itself is kind of going through. All the companies here are growing extremely fast. And so when you get talent into a company like Stripe, the difference we see is that the Indian talent come in with this growth mentality. They're humble. So they, when you want to grow, you need to kind of approach it with a level of humility where you say, give me feedback, help me understand where my gaps are, and I want to kind of grow. And there's a certain degree of, wanting to emulate the best that they see in their field. So I completely agree with the sentiment that has been expressed so far, which is your craft matters. The second part of it that matters is your attitude and how you approach work. And this is where I feel like the talent here in India is very, far superior. That's the moat, I would say, that we have. And we should think about it, recognize it, and foster it. I'll kind of end by saying that I've worked in, the cloud industry for a really long time, where we solved really hard problems. The cool thing about the cloud is you just need to solve them once, right? And everybody else can build on top of it. Now we're approaching this era where, knowing what to build is more important than, figuring out how to build it, because, all industries are going up the value chain. You're basically raising the abstraction continuously. So as, students, especially as you think about things like contributing towards GitHub repositories and things like that, getting into that product sense for knowing what it is that you can kind of contribute to this community that would be a value add to it is just as important. It would be super useful to kind of think about that. Lastly, I'll end by saying people skills. I found that Indian talent has extremely good people skills, where it's very camaraderie, great communication. Exactly, I'll kind of echo what Tanay said, is being able to express what you want to express in a succinct way. And I think all of this is coming together really well. So Stripe, came here for the market, staying for the talent, and I'm actually super glad that we're here. We're now using the local talent to actually solve global problems. So in a way, there's a lot of attraction of talent that's happening here to up-level it to the global stage.
Wow, awesome. So we spoke about skill set, craft, the attitude. The other for GitHub especially, our community fabric, or GitHub as the social coding platform, is really, really important. And at GitHub Education as well, we do a lot of work for building community. What are your viewpoints about how community helps, especially the student category, student users, in advancing in their career stages, or even from learning to employability? Any of you who wants to go first?
I have been a big, community learning champion, so maybe I will steal the mic from everyone else to begin with. Sure. Yeah. So actually, I would start with, maybe a question that when we talk about, and of course, no doubt to the fact that in India and even globally, we have had these, top Ivy Leagues, the MIT, the Stanford, the Harvard, or the IITs, etc. And there's no doubt that, of course, the alumni graduating from there have done great in careers, no denying that, right? They have produced very high quality tech talent. But why? If I ask you why, if you drill into that, did they have access to better books? Did they have access to better content? Absolutely not. Everyone have had access to the same books. Did they have 10x or 100x better professors? While yes, maybe they might have had slightly better professors, but I don't think even in the bestest university, if I talk about, let's say, a university in, say, in a small town in India versus even in a university, because I have been to a decently famous university as well, I can attest while the professors are great, not taking anything away from them, but the gap is not 10x or 100x the gap that we see in the outcomes, right? Now, content is same, people teaching them is same. What is different? Fundamentally, what is different in best colleges which have been producing very high quality talent is the community. The community that exists inside these campuses, the Harvard or the Stanford, that is what biggest catalyst is. Now, what does community do? Now, if we try to break it down, what exactly are the inputs that drive this? There are a few parameters, and actually here, let me also talk about one anecdote. So back in 2018, one of the fastest growing mobility company in India, of course, I will not put the name. They worked with us to hire their fresh engineering talent in India. They were just setting up their office in India, and they worked with us to set up their India Tech Center. And we kind of told them that why do you want to maybe visit 5 or 10 engineering campuses? That limits your reach. Why not do a pan-India, coding test? People who perform well, you can interview them. Eventually, they had to hire 40 fresh college grads. 10 out of them. Now, these people who were hired at a salary of 35 lakhs LPA right after college, and this is 2018, 4 or 5 years back, came from very small towns, colleges whose name I had never heard before. And that was actually revealing for us. Like, these folks are coming from colleges where probably no one ever got in the history of college ever got an offer paying them more than 5 lakhs. How did that happen? Of course, the content is accessible to everyone, right? So me and my other co-founder of the company, Anshuman, we sat down, we got on a 1-hour call with each of them to understand that what was different about you. What was common amongst almost all of them was access to some form of mentorship. They would say that, my elder cousin, she works for Google. She asked me to start preparing on interview bit, and she keeps helping me whenever I get stuck. Someone would say that, one friend of my elder brother, who was his college friend, went to IIT Bombay, and he has been coaching me. He has been guiding me, right?
Wow, mentorship at such an early age.
Mentorship is such a big lever, right? Second is, more often or not, they would have a group of 2, 3, 4 friends who have all succeeded together. The success never comes as an individual instance. It's a group which does together well, right? Now, when we look at, the best colleges, the Ivy Leagues or the top universities, those dynamics are unintentionally created there. They have access to very high quality mentorship, either in form of peers or their seniors who are already doing big things. That sets a right goal for them. If the person right next to me is winning ACM ICPC World Finals, I do not feel that I can't do it. If the guy living right next to me can do it, I can also do it.
Becomes approachable and reachable, right? Yes.
And if I'm stuck on something, I can just knock the door and move on. If I want to get some questions answered, it's accessible within few seconds. That is what community does. Now, in today's world where, thanks to Geo, everyone across the world has access to very high speed internet. Now, this community dynamics, which earlier for centuries existed in very small concentrated geographical places. If you are in the campus of IIIT Hyderabad, only then you can have access to this community. If you are in the campus of Stanford, only then you can have access to this community. Fortunately, we are living in a world where we can be, Tanay is building metaversity, right? With metaverse. Or, of course, that is the very advanced version of that. But in one way or other, even when I am in a Discord server, even when I'm on a Slack channel talking to people, I am in metaverse, right? I can be surrounded, or even when I'm collaborating with people on GitHub, I am in a metaverse, right? I can build a community around me irrespective of whatever my geographical location can be. I can connect with like-minded people from across the world. And hence, what I strongly believe is that future of higher education will be entirely virtual. These high intensity, high caliber environments or campuses will be created virtually. They will be on the internet. And this power of community in learning is going to be, like what was accessible to probably a few hundred people in the Stanford campus earlier, that would be probably available to everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for reinforcing that about community. Tanay or Atreya, anything you would want to add more to it? I know we all understand community really helps foster this, but any tips on?
Yeah, I think I should have taken Abhimanyu for my VC pitch. He has done a better job than I did. So that's the exact same thing which we were saying, not in a very nice way, which Abhimanyu said, is that everybody has access to content today. The Coursera's and the edXs of the world have democratized content. Even like as Abhimanyu said, now you have the best professors also on your fingertips. But even then, the needle is not moving. You would have thought that after MIT, OCW, Coursera, edX, everybody would be a great engineer or a great businessman or things like that, but it didn't happen. So what is missing? And that's where, we said the community is a special ingredient without which, growth doesn't happen. Just content alone doesn't work. It's a mixture of content, community, and accountability, which comes through mentorship, through exams, through challenges, through assignments. When these three come together, then the magic of education happens. And then you see a different kind of growth trajectory than anywhere else. So I think community is a very, very important piece. It's one of the most important pieces, which we are missing from past 10 years. But thanks to the likes of Discord, Slack, even Twitter, I feel, and some places, LinkedIn, YouTube comments and whatnot, we are getting some sense of community now. And the future, which I'm building towards is, yes, I'm sorry, GitHub as well. So I think GitHub has done a great job. It's just that students don't realize it until they are like in a good job, and then they start using it for open source and things like that, right? GitHub has produced amazing software, all remote. Even before we went remote, GitHub went remote, right? And we have been doing, so the topmost companies, Microsoft Teams and everything is working on React, which is done on GitHub and everywhere. The more we understand, and everyone who's listening, find your tribe is what I keep telling everywhere. Find your community so that you can also have that catalyst towards growth. That's all.
Atreya, anything you wanna add?
I'll flip this around actually and talk about it from like what happens with community within a workplace, right? Software development is a team sport. It's not an individual game, right? You need to know how to work with people, and you need to have done that before. You need to have built that muscle before you came in. And people who come in with that muscle have a very steep trajectory of growth, right? Essentially, what you can do with your two hands on your keyboard is very limited. You cannot vertically scale yourself, only to some extent. It's exactly like distributed systems. The more you can kind of horizontally scale, influence, right? Decompose a problem, delegate, and converge all of those various threads into a point of success, that's when you create magic with software. And it all happens within a community and through building a community and acting responsibly within a community. So like, I think that's where I think, just to like, again, plug GitHub again, it's for me, before I went into a larger, corporation, it's like communities like that provided the ability to collaborate, multiple people, very large number of people collaborating on a single goal. Many times that can be very challenging to navigate. The other example I'll give is, you could go and you think you're a hotshot software engineer, you write up what you think is a beautiful piece of code and you send in a pull request, and this large community comes back with almost a rewrite, like a set of suggestions. You learn from that, and that, being able to deal with that and learn from it and up-level yourself continuously, it all happens within a community. And I'm very glad that there are such opportunities available outside of large corporations that help you exercise that muscle. So when you get in, you're in this kind of really steep trajectory within, corporations like Facebook, Stripe, and many more like that.
Atreya, I come to you with the next question as well. Tanay, in some ways, talked about the inclusion, like the soft skills, or again, the craft or the skill set. Not having a college degree is also, in many ways, an inclusion in the industry. What are you seeing in the corporate world? And then I'll open it to others, but I wanted to hear from you first.
Yeah, I will reflect on my entire experience here. This is not specific to Stripe. I think there is definitely still a bias in the top corporate world for resumes of a certain type. Where I've seen that be completely broken is when, I'll give you one anecdote, of course, without naming this person, who kind of dropped out of a really good university in their third year, right? Tried to do something of their own. And this is kind of going back to some of the statements that were made in the session around proving your work. If you don't have a degree, you haven't come in from the top university, you have to have some way in which you can prove that you're able to compete at that level, right? And so this person, what they did was they just started a company, right? They thought they had a really good idea. They executed really well on it. The company didn't pan out. That's okay, right? The fact that they demonstrated the ability to, right, like think backwards from a customer, like identify a problem that was useful enough to solve, and get enough people together, influence them to work on this problem, and produce something that was tangible, right? While that may not have had business success, those set of skills are really what any corporation is looking for, right? And this person kind of came into Facebook and has seen some of the steepest career growth that I have seen in my entire 20 years of working in the industry. So that's just a testament to the fact that there is a level of inclusion that will happen as far as you're able to bring that proof of the pudding to the table, right? But I will also caveat this by saying that in the cream of the kind of corporate industry, there is still that level of bias for schools and things like that, especially when you look for internships, which we are hoping to actively break. There's a level of conscious, counter bias that we're bringing to the table. Hopefully that will kind of drive more inclusivity in all regards of diversity here.
Yeah, we're breaking that as well at GitHub with the externship programs or internship programs and breaking that barrier of proof of work or skill sets than more of a college degree. Abhimanyu Thane, anything you want to add there? I'm sure Scalar has some examples or experiments that you can share with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as Atreya mentioned, and actually I think we have to admit that as humans and even as organizations, we always have inherent biases. First step to, I think, avoid them is admitting that there's always a possibility that we can develop biases. Now, biases often get even more pronounced when there is any ecosystem which already is heavier towards one kind of group, right? Now, this could be gender bias, this could be background bias, this could be, this could be anything. We recently did one very interesting experiment that we called Scalar Fair Play. What we did was that we partnered with about 50 different companies across different segments, all the way from young startups, let's say scaled up startups, which might be unicorns, etc., pre-IPO, or some, recently IPO'd successful startups of India, even some, public large multinational companies. Our proposition to them was following. We would understand your entire recruitment process. We would understand what kind of skills you value and at what depth you evaluate your candidates on. We will invest in running that entire process on a bunch of candidates. Only people who are able to clear that bar, taken by very capable professionals as interviewers in a strict proctored environment. Hence, we ensure that there is no scope of anyone, kind of sliding in who is not capable. And we will kind of give them to you. You for interviews, of course, you should evaluate them once again as per your standards. Now, while we would do all this hard work for you without charging you anything, what we are looking for in return, what we were looking for in return is that you would take their interviews without having looked at their past background. Did they have a degree or not? Which college did they go to? What kind of degree did they have?
Black box interviews.
They might have. Black box interview. What their ethnicity is, what their, maybe sometimes, of course, I think gender in interviews is pretty hard. I wish there was some way to do that as well. But hide as many past, profiling data as possible. Do the interviews only and only on the base of skills. And let us know who are the people you would want to hire, who are the people you would not want to hire. Right. Once you have made the decision, we will reveal who the person was, where did the person come from. Now, fantastically, just in a month, there were actually, after our last chat, I looked at data once again. Just in 1 month, about 50 people got hired by some of the most sought after tech companies just in India. And when we look at the segmentation of the data, that what kind of people were hired, then again the biases are very clearly visible. That if we look at the other pipeline of number of offers made and how is the distribution across, let's say, category of colleges, degree, which kind of degrees the people have, which companies do people come from, there's a very clear delta that there are biases at play. On both the sides, we might be hiring someone who doesn't really fit the bar just because the person, we have a positive bias for the person, or other way around, that we might be saying no to a person just because we have a negative bias for the person. So
now you've an experiment to prove as well that inclusion is like, you're seeing that with the industry as well. This is awesome.
Yeah. So
Tanay, anything you want to add there? Or Abhimanyu, if I stopped it and you were adding something else?
No.
Yeah.
What is that?
Tanay,
Yeah,
anything?
no. So we did this similar kind of experiment before starting the whole Invact Meta MBA program. Is we asked a lot of MBA folks who generally hire, is that if I don't tell you which college this kid is from, and I give you a very good review and how to determine who is from a better college. And I think that's the problem, right? And Abhimanyu talked about bias. Bias is about when you get less signals, your brain wants to quickly take a decision based on the strongest signal you have. And degree has, or the college name has been the strongest signal. Now what you say is, hey, I'm removing the strongest signal, or instead of the strongest signal, I'm giving you 20 different signal points for you to look at, and then see whether, this, with these signals, with this data, can you make a right decision or not? So I think inclusion is not a one-person problem, right? It's not just the company should be more inclusive. They should give more, because you should think about a company. When you post a job offer, there are like thousands and 10,000 of people applying on the same job. And I'm being an entrepreneur now, I understand you have to also run a business apart from doing all of this. So then how do you do this? The way to do it is, as an applicant, you increase the number of signals, like GitHub repository today, and having an active GitHub contribution is a good signal. GSOC has become a good signal. Lead Code and other such platforms have become good signal. Making your own projects have become good signal. So you have to give signals to the hiring manager to help that person, who poor fellow, what will he do otherwise, or she do? How will they do 10,000 applications filtering? So I think we have to think from the other perspective. I think this at Microsoft, we talk about empathy a lot, and empathy has to be for the other party as well, and then only we can fight the bias in our industry.
Now, I love how you put it. We're almost close to time. The last question that I wanted to bring to all of you, you've all had esteemed journey in the tech industry. If you had to go back and tell your 18, 20-year-old self, what would be one big advice you'll tell him?
Tanay, do you want to go first?
I have a very anti-advice. I'm stopping myself that don't say this on camera.
Go ahead.
It's okay,
so
but
please,
if you have given it to
please.
yourself, I'm happy that you share it with others.
Yeah.
See, I would have given it to myself even 10 years back, is that, so if I have to give advice to me, I would say, keep working hard. When I joined my first company, it was a great package, and I thought I should have work-life balance early in my life. And then my manager pulled me once and said, Tanay, everyone's smart, and if you want to rise the ranks, hard work is what will differentiate you from everyone else. Now there are enough people on internet who tell you that if you're talented, you should work on or your own terms and all. And I personally do not agree with this. I think there's a time till which you should work really, really hard, learn as much as you can, and then think about work-life balance and all the other things. Because people who are telling this on the internet, they have reached there by working a lot extra hours than this is. So take every piece of advice with some pinch of salt on internet, especially, and this one as well.
Thank you, Tanay.
To continue from where Tanay left, while I 100% agree, and important point is that a snippet visible on internet has a lot more context to it of that individual's journey, which generally gets lost. So do not, just follow blindly. I totally agree with that. One more thing that I would add is that while I think I was lucky enough to have the right mentors and put me in the right direction at the right time. But even till date, I see a lot of young folks, young students making that mistake. One is that think long term. Your career, when we are talking to mostly, I think, engineers, there is a greedy algorithm and there's a dynamic programming approach, right? Where you do not just pick whatever is immediately giving you value, but you think a little more long term. That what choices today are going to give you a lot more growth in, say, your career is a 30, 40-year-old, journey. So think long term, focus on the fundamental skills. In your career, you should never have fear of missing out, unlike the stock market where often people are driven by FOMO. And I see this a lot that, there are a bunch of new stuff floating around and people are jumping around. Instead of digging 100 wells driven by FOMO, focus on the fundamentals, build your fundamental skills really, really well, learn how to learn. And then it's a long journey, you will do great. Do not be too worried about do not be in the rat race that someone else did 10% more than me, so I have to just run for that. Focus on building fundamental skills, think long term. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Awesome. I love that phrase, learn to learn.
Yeah.
Ithia, what advice would you give your 18, 20-year-old self?
Well, I'll continue a lot of the threads that have already been talked about here. The one thing I think I would definitely do differently, especially in the early part of my career, as Tanay mentioned, where I was working really hard, is to also take a moment to enjoy what you're doing. Because what I was doing was actually quite amazing. When I look back, I miss those dates when I could just spend 8 hours just on my keyboard writing code. I am running from meetings to meetings now, and I look back at that time and go like, wow, those were some really you could be in flow, right? Like the state of flow that they say, like that musicians get into when they're riffing. Like you can actually enjoy your work when you kind of take a step back and think about more of the long term of what you're actually trying to achieve, and then get into it. So take time to enjoy your work. Of course, work hard, but have that be a more fruitful long-term journey and don't burn out. That would be definitely one advice that should be applicable to everybody at this point.
Awesome. I would also add one thing, and I say this all for the student or female community as well. Be really self-confident too, because I think that's something somewhere I feel, and maybe it's a bias, like we are a little less confident usually. So be more self-confident, just believe you're awesome. And then everything else with your learn to learn, you're working hard and enjoying as well, the rest will all follow it. Any last words that you want to share before we end this awesome session?
I just think we should do this more. This was a great session, and thank you for everyone who joined in and putting this together. We should definitely do this more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. High five to that. Great session. Thank you so much for hosting us, Divya and team.
Thank you.
Thank you all of you for joining in. And folks, if you have any questions, reach out to these folks on their Twitter or LinkedIn channels. And yeah, awesome. Thank you everyone for joining in. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, everyone, for those great insights, proof of work and more. I have been pleasantly surprised by how students think, right from my 4-year-old daughter to our graduating student developers. Let's hear more from our young developers as we try to decode their mind.
I can say something like,
This question is a little bit tricky.
Definitely is sorry.
I guess I should have looked at the counter.
Can we do this again?
Okay. 1, 2, 3, start.
so I would like to request all the movies and TV shows out there to stop calling my laptop as my BFF.
They don't use Stack Overflow, which is very surprising because we as developers always refer to Stack Overflow while coding.
Randomly typing into a terminal does not mean you're hacking into a computer. Shows and movies just get that wrong all the time.
most of the technologies that we take for granted, like our operating system in the cell phones, those wouldn't exist.
My GitHub profile wouldn't have many followers, or my repository wouldn't have a lot of stars.
I would definitely not be able to teach so many people in YouTube.
So my favorite sci-fi or tech movie is going to be The Matrix, the first and the second part.
I really liked Ready Player One. That was definitely a very good movie.
So my favorite sci-fi movie is Star Wars because I love the idea of traveling between the galaxies.
My wife has recently started coding, so I would essentially choose my wife.
My ideal coding partner would be problems.
Ideal coding partner would be my kid. He helps me to learn more things.
That's sweet, coding with your kids. I'm really enjoying the way our community is reacting to Constellation. Well, folks, teachers around the world use GitHub to create, manage assignments, and empower the students with a learning and collaborative approach. Next up is a lightning talk by Satish, a GitHub campus advisor and educator from Coimbatore, India, to talk about his experience teaching GitHub with GitHub.
Hi everyone, welcome to GitHub India Constellation. And today I'm going to talk about how I teach GitHub with GitHub. I'm Satish Jnanaprakasam and I'm a corporate technical trainer working at RBS Educational Trust with 11 plus years of experience in teaching and training students in C, C++, Java, Python, data structures and algorithms, machine learning, Python for data science, Git and GitHub, databases, full stack development, statistics using R, linear algebra, etc. I'm going to talk about today the best practices that I've used GitHub and GitHub education tools in my classroom to leverage the teaching learning process efficiently to my students. So I'm going to talk about three best practices. The first one, to start with, peer assignment review. So this is the scenario. I had to teach 20 students full stack web development course, and there were 4 sub courses which needs to be covered. And there are at least 200 assignments and exercises I need to share with my students on a daily basis after every single session and get it evaluated. So now, other than evaluation, it is also important for me that all of my students should at least attempt the exercises and assignments and solve most of the exercises and assignments rather than the evaluation score that they are getting. So I came up with a process that gave me good results, really good results, which I couldn't achieve before without GitHub. And what I did is I've automated generating a random peer evaluation order along with the GitHub education tools. Now I managed to share the peer evaluation order in the GitHub discussions along with the GitHub solutions for every set of exercises that I release through GitHub Classroom, and that enabled the students to assign their peers with the repositories that the peer needs to evaluate, and the students can evaluate their assignments then, and then finally give the mark or score based on their assignment. And if you can see here, the students, you can see that the students have provided the feedback for the assignment, their peer assignments, which they have reviewed. And after reviewing their assignments, they simply come down to the form which I have posted, and they simply select the peer whom they have evaluated in the assignment and give the score. This encourages the student at least to go through all of the assignments at least once in order to at least evaluate their peers, rather than trying to solve the assignments on their own. And the second best practice which I did was generating GitHub pages. I wanted to have a separate course page which is organized and structured and have training details, curriculum, That includes lecture slides, lecture videos, references, books, exercises, assignments, solutions, quizzes, tests. And I used GitHub Pages to create a custom static web page with all the details about the course, which basically acted as a single space or one destination for my students to find all the details of the course. They need no need to go anywhere else searching for other details in any other tools. And also I have managed to add the comment section provided by an external package by called as utterances block at the end of the page that enables the student to use the GitHub ID, their GitHub ID, to simply add comments to that also enable them to collaborate and engage within the page's training page. And this is the repository that I have all the assets and all the materials with. And I have also given the link for them to try the mock test, which will take to an external page. And this is how the GitHub static web page, final static web page looks like. It has all the training materials which the student can access. And this is the comment section that I've told you about. And in the end, all they need is a GitHub ID to add comments, and they can preview it and then they can post their comments. The best thing is that all the comments which they are posting is going to get added to the issues section of the same GitHub repository where I have kept all the materials. And guess what? They can also use the issues to reply back to the comments or add or edit something, and that gets reflected to the GitHub static page. And the third best practice which I did was Swell course. I had to teach our statistics using our class, our course to my students. And for that course, I wanted to give to my students a self-paced learning environment, meaning I want the students to do the course on their own, provided what I want to teach them in statistics using R. And in every step of the learning, they can use examples and information that I have provided within the self-paced learning environment. And I came to know about Swell course to deliver, but the problem is in the distribution of the course to the students. So I then used GitHub to keep my course in a central repository, and students can directly install the course in their local RStudio. RStudio is, by the way, a tool, an IDE, which we use to run our commands and create our projects. And that repository is provided through GitHub. Let me show you how I did that. So this is the RStudio, and I had the courses in my the course created in my GitHub repository. Student can simply come to RStudio and start the Swell package and install the course. And once the course gets installed, they can just start the course by putting their name. And in every step, as you can see here, the students will get specific instruction of what they have to do, and also the concept of what they have to learn. And it also allows the student to make an attempt to the quizzes. And this is the repository of the course that I had in order to provide that to the Swell to enable the students to learn statistics using our course. And that's it. So these are the three best practices that I used GitHub and GitHub education tools to leverage the teaching learning process in my class for my students. And thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'm always glad and happy to contribute something to the education community. And I hope these best practices will also enable the other fellow faculties to leverage the GitHub and GitHub education tools in your classroom. And I also encourage all of the faculties to try that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Satish, for that lightning talk. I'm sure educators would love to learn more from you and explore similar ways to leverage GitHub to teach GitHub. Recently, I was chatting with a 18-year-old, and she mentioned that she wants to take up content creation as her full-time career. She wants to empower her peers and the broader student community on the internet And honestly, in this era, learning digital skills has become much more necessary. So, up next is a panel hosted by my co host Arko, where he talks with few industry professionals who unveil their journey as a creator. Over to you, Arko.
Hey everybody, welcome to GitHub Constellation India 2022. In this segment, we'll talk about how creator spaces are becoming the new classroom. I have three amazing individuals who are creators, community leaders, and enablers of this creator economy. First in panel, we have the unofficial coach of creator economy, author of India's bestseller, Booming Digital Stars, Manish Pandey. Welcome, Manish. Welcome, Manish, to this amazing. Up next, we have Ivy Barlish. She's a Ghanaian entrepreneur, program manager at Microsoft, and a women tech activist. I have been a fan of your tech spaces with Ivy on Twitter, I've been tuning it almost every time you do it. So big fan on that piece, Ivy. Welcome to this panel.
Thank you. Happy to be here today.
Yes. And finally, we have Kunal Kushwaha, founder of Community Classroom, a GitHub campus expert doing amazing work in space of developer education and open source. Welcome back, Kunal, to another stream, another panel with GitHub.
Thanks everyone for having me, and really excited to be here with all the amazing panelists. Yeah.
Awesome. So let me get started with this really quick. And the first question to all of you, and maybe Manish, you can get started telling this. Content creation is becoming a mainstream today. Like, what are some of your opinions? Because everyone out there and every one of you out here is enabling this ecosystem. What are your thoughts?
Well, thanks, Arko. That's a great question to begin with. And yes, it is become a parallel thing. It's a career option. It is legit making money for creators. And what content creation leads is it enables you to become an entrepreneur. By the end of the road, right? So you start with creating content for yourself, then you distribute the same content for the community. And because you distribute it and you kind of selflessly give, you generate a community. And once you generate a community, you engage with them. And that is how you start your entire journey of becoming an entrepreneur. So it's quite a journey. Happy to see a lot of people in India picking on content. Happy to see that a lot of people who are on internet are engaging with different type of content and are trying to level themselves up in whatever area of interest has been for them. For India, at least I can speak for the country, is because I see it day in and day out. It's my everyday job to check what's happening on internet, how people are shaping, and all of it. So it's very, very exciting. The next 10 years are going to be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Talking about content coming out of India, and really, it's a conference for developers. So Kunal, tell me, you have been creating a lot of content, right? So what are some of the trends that you have been seeing so far? And how has it evolved with time? I'm pretty sure, if I'm not wrong, I saw you starting to create content early during pandemic itself, right? And you have created so much around cloud, DevOps, open source. What are some of those trends? Tell us more about it.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And you raised a very good point about the pandemic. I think the pandemic has influenced the online creator movement quite a lot, because when we talk about content creation, like Manish mentioned recently, it leads to your entrepreneurship, and there are many startups coming out in the field of education as well. Many YouTube channels around it. People are sharing their learnings via blog posts, so on and so forth. I think for students, it has become a very great way to learn in public and build their developer portfolio as well. So definitely, some people make a full-time career out of it. But the recent boom in content creation in India, at least that I have seen, has been in like the student community quite a lot. And I think one of the reasons is that students have tried to incorporate that as a way to represent themselves, their portfolio. Just content creation is a great way to showcase your knowledge. So be that via like YouTube videos or blog posts. One thing to keep in mind here is that you're not just creating content for others. I mean, obviously it's going to help a lot of people, but it's also going to help you. And that is one of the reasons why folks don't worry about this topic already has a lot of content on it, and you see new and newer approaches coming out every day. So if there's already content on cloud, it does not mean that no one else in the world will ever create content on cloud, because folks don't buy what you do, they buy how you do it. Is what I learned in like a TED talk that I was seeing. So I think like the content creation thing, now that we're talking about in India, I think a lot of students are moving forward with it because of most of the things are now happening virtually, and with like the remote work culture, I think like showcasing your skills and networking with the right people, it definitely helps. The content creation definitely helps in that, and I think this is a great thing to do. So if you're a student, definitely check out how you can utilize content creation means to enhance your skills and your portfolio, as well as help others around you.
Talking about for students and primarily, I think I totally agree on that point that, because a lot of students find, content creation to be another way they want to, validate how much probably they have learned. It's like, I can be a good learner, but am I a good teacher as well? Am I able to, honor my skills and, making sure whatever I learned, like, any project that I build, am I able to, go out there and teach it to 10 different other students around it? So it could be in the form of a blog post, or could be in the form of a tutorial, or could be in the form of a YouTube stream, anything like that really, encourages or, builds up more stronger portfolio for any individual. Talking about, strengthening portfolios and strengthening communities and individuals, I want to ask Ivy, as an ecosystem, how do you think making quality education accessible to underrepresented communities is possible? Because you have been doing a lot of work in this segment, and tell us more, like, how do you think this is shaping up?
Yeah, happy to jump in. And those are great points by Manish and Kunal so far. I believe with the internet, and right now there are really no barriers to anybody getting started in tech, or even maybe being a content creator or starting a career in content creation. But to answer your question, especially when it comes to underrepresented groups, I'll say the first thing has to do with the basics. And the basics here, I'm referring to internet connectivity, access to devices. So if people don't have good internet connectivity, they may not be able to come online to be able to create content and post online, or to be able to consume the content that other people have created. So if it's a YouTube video, you need to have enough bandwidth to be able to stream, like watch a video. And that's even just for YouTube. Talking about live stream on Twitch and these other platforms will require even much more. And then it comes to things like devices. If people don't have access to a phone that can be able to go online to watch these videos, or be able to use the content that's online, or even have access to computers to do so, that's like already a first step. Then another thing when it comes to underrepresented groups, I would say has to do with providing more free content online, free or affordable content online, so that people don't have the limitation of having to raise enough money to be able to take a course online, or to be able to be part of different kinds of communities. And right now, there are so many communities out there that don't require any kind of membership fee. So you can be part of a community and not have to pay money, and you can learn different courses online without having to pay for it. So that's already a good first step. And then with the pandemic and remote learning, I'll say there are even many more opportunities for people from any parts of the world to be involved in tech. So for people in India, in my case, I come from Africa. And so throughout the pandemic, I've seen a lot of people being able to go online to take their courses online because schools were shut down and they weren't able to go in person. So these are some of the opportunities that have come up. But one personal example I would mention is that I'm sure all of you are aware of the 100 days of code thing that people tend to do and then they post online. So I have a community that's very active online, and even though the 100 days of code challenge has existed for a while, I thought there wasn't much structure to it. So I assembled my community and I created a GitHub repo where I would post on a daily basis tips and resources and just like words of encouragement for people to keep going. And so we ended the 100 days of code challenge. Actually, it wasn't just 100 days of code because people were learning UI, UX design, product management, so many other things beyond software engineering. And so being part of that and using my network and then creating that community for people to learn was very instrumental, and people were from different parts of the world being able to contribute to that project. So those are some of the ways that I believe quality education can be made more accessible to especially underrepresented groups.
And when I hear about, like so much work happening, especially what, Ivy has been doing, Kunal has been doing to, educate so many developers, boundaryless. Like education is today getting boundaryless with so much of content creators and, enabling the broader community to be educated on anything and everything. And do you think, Manish, I mean, your book really talks about, I've been, reading about some of the stories, which is, these are individuals who have started content creation journey back when it wasn't even a thing. Yeah. Like people didn't realize that, okay, maybe fast forward 2022, content creation will be probably one of the things that people want to do. Like, I would want to just go educate students on Python programming and run a life around it. That's pretty much I want to do. But what do you think? Like, is internet becoming the new school?
Definitely, yes. Thanks, Arko. And Ivy was very, very inspiring to listen to all the things that you said. And continuing from there, yes, like the thing that I picked up and, it was ringing well for me was when I was explaining that why it is important to have, say, accessible internet, affordable devices. And like you mentioned, Arko, when the content creators that has been covered in the book, when they started, internet was not cheap in India, right? And I keep saying this and I keep stressing on this, that it was pre-Geo era. And, forget about streaming, right? Even uploading content was expensive. So while it was a costly affair, some of this mad bunch of guys thought they will have fun on internet and try and, use the democracy that we all have on internet, right? Because there is no boundary on internet. And they tried to have fun. And while they had fun, they made a content engine for themselves, which later turned into be a proper organization. All of these guys have legit teams today. Each of them have around 7 to 10 people working together to churn out the kind of content they do, right? That also gives an opportunity to kind of go ahead and do a lot of things like doing cohort basis courses, like you said, internet becoming school, right? So the cohort basis courses have been taking up. If I have to name something, there are organizations which approach them, try and record content, content creation, education, videos with them, courses, and put it out there. There has been many examples of in India now. About when you say internet is becoming the new school. So to name some, you see Metaversity, which is really picked up. Ex-Microsoft guys have started. Twitter's XMG joined hands to build that. Stoa School has been a school that has been coaching people online. There have been many such, right? And these are all opportunities that bloomed because of opportunity and say leverage that internet gave. So yes, internet is becoming a timeless school and is inviting students from anywhere and everywhere. You do not have to be physically present anywhere, just that if you have accessible internet, accessible device, you're good to go. You can just learn, and at the same time, you can start monetizing the skills that you've learned, right? So To give an example, we keep listening to this word as gig economy, right? So I was talking to a very studious, at the same time, very intelligent 16-year-old guy. And I asked him, what have you done? And said, I've designed 5,000 thumbnails. And I was like, okay, because just knowing Photoshop is not enough to design thumbnails. You need a different type of mindset. You need a different type of visualization. And for me, that guy qualifies to get a high-paying job for thumbnail designing at any creator's office. So yeah, this is how internet is changing things. And on the go, there are new career options that's coming out, right? Who knew that writing subtitle would be a career option? It is. So yeah, it's wonderful time going to be ahead.
Awesome. And totally agree on that piece that, there's so much of work that is put out there on the internet with the gig economy and all the, work that's there, like, anything and everything is becoming, important, right? It could be, like you mentioned, writing subtitles is also a work. But tell me something like Kunal, because you have been connecting the two dots between content creation and, building out the community. Like, how have been connecting these two C's, like, the content and community, because it's going to be a good learning, I'm pretty sure, for a lot of students out there who are, learning to create content, learning to build communities in tech. So some sharings that you want to share with the community.
Yeah, my approach is pretty simple. I think, like, in order to be speaking just like, you want to get a job, you want to get employed and stuff, only do these two things. And no one is going to, like, discriminate you based on like what type of college you are from, or even if you have a computer science degree or not. Only you need to do these two things. So the first thing is obviously pretty straightforward: study. You have to study. You don't know a particular thing, you have to work hard, make projects, whatever, do your thing, right? Study, that's fine. The second point is apply that somewhere. Now this is where the community part comes in. So you mentioned, your question was learning and community. How do we combine that? So the learn by doing approach is extremely important. It's also like when I talk about like learning in public, for example. So when you make a project or you contribute to open source, you're actually building in public. Why is that important? Because you're going to get feedback, you're going to learn from others, and you're going to get discovered as well. So learning in itself is not enough. Try to get involved with other people, try to showcase what you're learning. Let's say you made 100 projects, you're learning web development, you made 100 projects, very great. But all of those projects are private repositories on GitHub. Now imagine the same person making 100 projects, all of them are open sourced. They have a nice portfolio. They have mentioned about their projects in their LinkedIn, GitHub, and Twitter, in their resume. So which particular scenario would increase your chances of getting a role or notified about opportunities, or getting noticed in the eyes of the recruiters, for example? So I think like learning and community go pretty well side by side. You also get a broader perspective of how folks work around the world, and you get to learn from their experiences. Folks often keep asking, what is the roadmap? How do we do this? What do we do after this? I've learned this or that. So I think like learning from others' experiences tends to be pretty good. So yeah, learning is great, but try to apply that somewhere. You can do that in many ways. You can do content creation, open source. You can teach someone, you can give talks, you can write blogs, so many things you can do. So two-step process: learn, study, do your thing, but then the community part as well, like get involved, apply your knowledge somewhere. And I don't mean that you have to be like really active on social media. That is what we mean by learning in public. No, it's more like developers as well. They are contributing to open source, they are contributing on GitHub. That is also sort of like learning in public. They're collaborating. So you don't have to have 10,000 Twitter followers or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that give and receive feedback, learn in public. And it's not like if you're sharing the work that you have done, it's not boasting or anything. Just trying to get feedback. You're sharing the work that you have done, your hard work that you have done, even achievements. When you share about those, I think it's extremely important to give recognition for your hard work. So yeah, learn in public.
Totally. And I strongly, believe when students come up to us and ask that, do I need to be an extrovert to be a community leader? The answer is always no. And that's what we try to, explain students, that, you could build a community, you could educate a community, you could run a community without being really vocal about all that you do. You might have to express, but express probably as a character, not always as your individual within, being loud enough. That's definitely not what is expected when you're running a community. So Ivy, you have been balancing really well in, making sure the community is diverse and inclusive while students learn or while beginners learn. What are some of the best practices that you think that, creator spaces can take when they want to create more and more diverse and inclusive spaces?
Yeah, the first thing I wanted to say, which is a fun fact, that I'm an introvert. So it was interesting to hear you say that about introverts leading communities. I want to give a few examples. And over the past few months, I've been very active on Twitter Spaces. I'm running these live audio conversations to give people access to opportunities in tech and resources. And I've had people from very diverse backgrounds join these spaces. And sometimes I don't even know who is there. So people will send me DMs, and some of them will share very positive feedback. And that's how I get to know where they're coming from. So I've had people who are high school. There was a lady who reached out to me 2 weeks ago, and she just completed high school and she's not sure what to study in college. So she came to one of the Twitter spaces and wanted me to provide, because she's thinking of getting into web development, but she didn't know how to start. So she reached out to me, and then I provided her with some resources that she could study with. And I also connected her with a mentor who is now able to have weekly sessions with her. And I've also had people from very diverse backgrounds. I've had people with disabilities join the space. And because it's an audio, actually one of the ladies who joined is deaf. And when I didn't know until after the space, and she mentioned that the reason why she was able to participate in the space was because of the closed captions that Twitter has. So even though she couldn't hear what we were saying, she could follow using the text that was provided. And so the very first thing I would mention will be inclusive technology. And I believe that's something that Twitter is doing well in terms of providing closed captions for people who are deaf to be able to follow through. But maybe to generalize it, tech companies being more inclusive, thinking about people with disabilities, making products more accessible, I believe is one of the ways of making tech communities inclusive and diverse. The other parts I want to talk about will be the community organizers and moderators and admins. I believe we play a major role in making our communities diverse and inclusive. So what kind of policies do we have in place? Are we making sure that if there are reports of harassment, we are dealing with these issues? Are we educating our community members about how we can respect each other, how we can include each other in the different things we do? So in as much as, yes, the technology part plays a role, I believe the humans play an equally important role in making these communities diverse and inclusive, because diversity is not enough when people don't feel included. So for me, best practices, I'd say one, being authentic, myself as a community leader, openly sharing my journey, being vulnerable, which is not always very easy to do, but I do have people who relate to my story because I'm openly sharing with them. And that's something that you were talking about, Kunal, about sharing publicly. And it's not just about being active on social media. You don't have to be active on social media to be able to be in the community or be active in the community. And then things around creating that supportive environment for your community members to feel like they're welcome. Those are some of the best practices. And then actually one more thing I wanted to mention is finding opportunities to learn from other creators and other community managers or community leaders is super important, because they may be implementing some best practices that you may not know about. So if we stay in touch and we work together, then there's the opportunity for us to learn from each other and then grow together and be able to grow our communities ultimately.
I mean, when we hear that, this collaboration is ideally what keeps communities alive, right? And when we talk about collaborations, I'm pretty sure, I mean, kids have learned, I mean, 5th, 6th grade kids who are probably, doing online classes have learned the power of collaboration with matching up timelines with their friends and peers, attending, remote classes right in the beginning. There has been so much that has been talked about, and collaboration is one of those, right? In past 2 years, we all have realized the value, right? And drastically, when we see education ecosystem has had, a lot of shifts. There was a shift from complete offline to an online. There was a shift from an online again back to offline and somewhere hybrid now, right? And it's happening like fast, right? It's could happen in say 2 months time, or could be in 10 days time. We don't know how things are shaping up. Manish, you have really, a key, I'm pretty sure you'll have this understanding on the observations that we have across platforms, right? And students are majorly part of this segment, right? They are the major consumers of content. How does platform play a role when content distribution from a learner point of view makes sense, right? What are some of those key observations across platforms?
That's a very smart question, Arko, and happy to add that yes, you pointed it out very, very well that students create their community and depending upon what they're interested in, right? So, for example, I was interacting with Ujjwal, who's a very young gamer from our country, and I personally did not understand esports much. I have never been a fan of esports. However, when I studied and when I saw, how things are shaping up, according to me, old school mentality, right? I thought that when you're playing games on computer, you're not doing something productive. But then, I had to educate myself and say that, no, hey, this is looking like a lucrative career option for people. And seeing that how esports is now also gaining, its position in world level competitions and all of that, right? Streaming has chess in it. Streaming has different kind of board games, which also is not just, high graphics and anything like that. It's more of learning. Now I see that the kids who are interested in this esports, they're not much active on Twitter. They're not active on LinkedIn. They're not active on, Instagram or anywhere. Where do I find them? Then I discovered something called Discord. And then I had to educate myself on Discord. And that gave me an opportunity to learn about Discord. So something that I was thinking that, okay, in a very old school way, in a very moral policing way, that this is not something that you should be doing on the internet, which taught me a lot of things. And I see that the guys who are discussing gaming on Discord are also discussing about Web3, also discussing about metaverse today, also discussing about things like NFT and how they can integrate NFT in the gaming that they are doing. That means this definitely is leading to something progressive. This definitely is leading to something that's going to create magic, if not today, tomorrow, right? So it's an exciting thing to say. If you see, youngsters who are interested in infotainment based of things or entertainment based of things, they are quite active on Instagram and further on other streams like Facebook and YouTube, and they have their own community there. You see kids, I say kids because, I interact with them and they come up to me with their questions. So that's how the vibe is a new word that I've learned from the Gen Z community. It's quite exciting to see that all of them have understood that where is their community, which community they want to hang out, and they have selected their own social media tribe, right? And they are thriving accordingly. So you see that the youngsters are also using LinkedIn, they are also using Twitter, they are using Discord, they are using a closed group like Telegram. So everybody's understood what is beneficial for them, and they're using it to its maximum potential. And this is very, very inspiring. I met up with a bunch of youngsters the other day, a group of guys and girls. They were all in their early 20s, and because they are experiencing some issue with social media that they are on, they're thinking of coding one of their own, and that's very exciting. That because they are saying that okay, the UI is not right, they have a lag, there is some glitch in the algorithm, so they are coding their own stuff, which and imagine it can shape up to become a new social media platform. Who knows, so yeah, I mean, this is what it is. So it's very exciting. It gives me immense joy to hang out with this young bunch of guys, because I might be teaching them one or two things, right? But in return, I get to learn thousands of things. So I'm hugely selfish while I work with them, right? Because I get to learn a lot.
Totally.
That's my point on this.
And what makes me realize that when you are mentioning that a student might find that I'm not enjoying this app, I might go build my own.
Yeah,
exactly, like the creator mindset, right? I mean, you're not expected as a creator to probably go out there, create just content. You might be creating apps. Yes, I mean, it makes sense to build something new, or build on top of something which is already there and fixing a problem. You could be a problem solver as a creator as well.
Right.
I think this was amazing, those insights, especially from all of you. But before we close off this panel, I have just final question. Again, it's going to be for all, and just one liner is what I probably expect from each one of you. Is like, what is the future of creator economy? Manish, if you want to go first.
Well, it's a very difficult one. Will you say just finish it in one line? It's going to be booming. It's just started. We've just seen the tip of the iceberg right now.
Kunal?
Yeah, definitely. Even many roles are shaping up when it comes to content creation. So definitely it's going to be booming. And one last thing I'd like to add is that many events are also taking the approach of hybrid events. So like if it's a physical event, then it's like has a virtual entity to it as well, which is also promoting content creation. So I think it's only going to go up.
Awesome.
Get on it.
I see more connected communities, so more collaboration amongst different communities.
Totally. I think collaboration is what probably will keep this creator economy alive. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. It was wonderful hearing each one of your thoughts, especially all the work that you do is pretty much the community appreciates. And your work in the community, your insights to educate the community keeps the community alive. And hope you folks have a great Constellation events and sessions ahead. Thank you.
Indeed, so much is happening in this creator space. Thank you, Arco, and all our panelists for sharing your thoughts. And before we move to the closing notes for the day, let's hear how the community is reacting to GitHub Tara Mandal.
I could think of some plugins, I guess, then.
Live interactive workshop. Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'll try my best. Yes.
Shall I go?
Are you finding it difficult to talk to your new friends you met online? Well, not anymore, kid. I have a nice and fun guessing game which can help you to know your friends better.
My recent project allows you to experiment as you watch or read the content.
So I'm working on a tool which will help reducing the online fights.
Have you ever played Snake and Ladder game? I've designed something very similar.
I have this Campus Experts bag that sort of helps me advertise that I'm a developer.
I'm in love with Python, but that's not a snake.
I like Jira, but unfortunately that does not go well with curry.
I think one of the most remarkable feat that code has achieved in India is the CoWIN application. It was built in record time. It kind of helped a lot of people get vaccinated really quickly.
So cricket is one of the biggest things in India, and even in these uncertain times, code has made it possible for us to watch it together online.
Healthcare industries have been able to leverage the power of AI and ML techniques as seen in the recent times.
Educational.
Feeling over the top.
Insightful.
Oye, maza aa gaya.
I hope सबको बहुत मजा आया. Attending GitHub Constellation for the last 3 days from your home office, car, couch, or wherever you are joining us from. Big shout out to all the hosts, speakers, and folks behind the scenes of this amazing event. Dheeraj, since we announced the contest, we have received a bunch of submissions already from the community. Let's give it a look. Okay, this is a tweet by Shuvadeep underscore 1997. This is my all-time favorite GitHub swag collection. Hashtag Constellation India 2022. Okay, there's this plushy small figuring on a bunch of swags. There's a hoodie. I mean, Shuvadeep, do we really need more swags? I mean, it's okay if you would want to give it to your friends, but yeah, lovely post. All right, next. There's a tweet from Balaji underscore CEG, my favorite swag sticker from GitHub India, GitHub Constellation. Yes, that's a lovely sticker, Balaji. You'll get some more soon. All right. Whoa, that's like an epic collection, Ashish 11 Chara. Like, you have almost everything. There's a field day swag, there's some hoodie, there's the campus expert collection of bag. Lot. Yes, Ashish. Looking forward to even the field day coming up. All right, folks. So this contest will last until this weekend. Feel free to put in more tweets. We will take submissions and respond back on Twitter via DMs.
But I share all the sentiments. I also want more swag. So keep on tweeting, keep on tagging GitHub Constellation, and wait for the surprises. So unfortunately, folks, that's a wrap for our first segment of day 3 at GitHub Constellation. You can join the student and the teacher workshop via the Zoom link available on the workshop page at githubconstellation.com. Thank you so much for joining, and keep an eye on our Twitter handles, GitHub India and GitHub Education, to stay updated about everything that's happening in the student community. Goodbye.